Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm Rebecca Lawrence and this is Voices. In this set of interviews, I will be focusing on issues of inclusion, diversity and allyship through intimate conversations with wine industry professionals from all over the globe. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps us cover equipment, production and publication costs, and remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in. Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast with me, your host this week, Rebecca Lawrence. I'm pleased to be in conversation today with Maria Caterina Dei of Cantine Dei in Montepulciano, Tuscany. Welcome to the podcast, Maria. I am so delighted to be able to speak with you today. And I do have a confession to start the podcast, because actually your wine is one of the original wines that made me fall in love with Italian wine. It was given to me by a friend in Montepulciano, and so it's a real honor to have you with me today.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm so excited and delighted as well to speak with you. And you make me flattered by saying this about my wine. Thank you. So I'm really glad that you enjoy the Vino Nobile and our wines. Thanks a lot. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
So for those who might not be familiar with Cantine Dei, can you tell our listeners maybe a little bit about where you are situated and the wines that you produce?
Absolutely, Rebecca. We are in beautiful Tuscany, so in the heart of Italy. And you know that Montepulciano is a very ancient area, and it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful town that was, built during the Renaissance. So it is also called the Pearl of the 15th century. So Montepulciano has always been very famous. So, of course, the foundation and the original birth of the whole territory goes back to the Etruscan time, so thousands of years ago, before the Romans. But it is true that Montepulciano saw its flowering during the Renaissance. So it was really the most important buildings were built between the 15th and the 16th century. That's why the Pearl of the 15th century. The Medici family from Florence were very close to the area, and they sent the most important architects to build Montepulciano. And it is also during that time, during the Renaissance, that we hear the name Nobile, so the appellation, for the wine. Why Nobile? Can you guess? Because it was the best wine produced in the region that was reserved to the noble families and also, to the crown heads all over Europe, because we know that the Vino Nobile reached many important families around Europe, so England and other countries. So it was a real important wine. And nowadays it's considered one of the most ancient wines in Italy. So speaking of the territory and, wine linked to the territory. So, I really invite, people who have never come to the area to come and enjoy the beauty of the landscape, the beauty of the, art and the city that has so much history and so much to offer.
So you were speaking about, obviously, architecture being an important feature of Montepulciano, but it's an incredibly important feature of the Cantine Dei winery, because it's made, as I understand, completely of travertine. Why was this decision made, and why is travertine so important to your family?
So this is really belonging to the history and story of my family, because my family has always been dealing with travertine. So my father, who really was the designer and the constructor of the cantina, he thought of making a cellar, making a home for his wine made with his stone, what he used to call his stone, because the family has always been excavating travertine in Rapolano in Tuscany. And this has always been the core business in the family. Before the passion for wine, really kept us so busy. So the history of our family goes together with travertine business, and of course now has always been connected to the wine now for many years, because it was my grandfather, so my father's father, who started planting planting the first vineyard in the 60s. So he planted what is now Bossona, which is the vineyard where we produce our Riserva, where we grow the vines for our Vino Nobile Riserva Bossona. So my grandfather started with the vineyards, but we used to sell grapes for a number of years until my father started thinking of making some wine for family and friends consumption. That was the idea. And this goes back to the 80s, actually, the mid-80s. And indeed, the Vino Nobile in 1985 was our first Vino Nobile produced. We produced 1 barrel of Vino Nobile. That was the start. And as you know, 1985 was such a good year, such a great vintage that gave us, the start. So after that, we decided to start making wine professionally. And it was my father to build, the first vinification cellar and an aging cellar, which is completely different from what we have now and from what my father himself built underground a few years ago. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2018, but he had the time to finish his piece of art, as he used to call it, and I think that's the right name for the cellar. So he designed and realized a cellar underground, which is snail-shaped, to recall the fossils that are one of the most important ingredients in some of our most important vineyards. And travertine is all over. So the pavement, the walls, the ceiling, and the roof of the cellar, which really makes an amphitheater. So I have to say, outside the cellar, we can have an amphitheater with a perfect acoustic. And my dream is to be able to organize concert and art events in the future, in the near future, to be able to make synergies and to have wine connected to art, and wine connected to music, because you probably know that I'm very fond of music.
I do actually want to come to your love of music and theatre in a moment. I am definitely going to be asking about that. But also, before we dive into that, I wanted to ask, when you started working for the winery, because you started in theatre, not in wine. So how did you make the decision to move into wine?
It was not actually my decision. In fact, I was totally wrapped into my theatrical and, music studies. And I studied arts at university, and I studied theater, I studied voice. So I was back and forward from Tuscany to Milan and to Rome. And this was back to the early 90s, until my father asked me to help him. And he asked me to get involved in the wine business that has just started, because we started selling the first bottles of Vino Nobile at the end of the 80s, let's say beginning of the 90s. So in 1991, my father asked me and insistently to have me involved in the wine. And I said, no, Dad, no thanks. I'm not interested in wine. That was my first reaction and my first answer to my father's question. And I said, no, Dad, because I'm totally, busy with my studies, but I can come help you with the harvest. And that was the first step that I made into the winery. So I came for the harvest in 1991, and I found that, it was a dramatic, attractive thing. And I really enjoyed being in the nature, being in the vineyards. I was wearing my boots, And I took my scissors and I went into the vineyards with all the pickers to pick the grapes. And I thought that was fantastic. There was something, a flattering, amazing experience. And at that time, I also thought, in the days after the harvest, that I could have made my own lifestyle here, basically, feeling free to play the piano and rehearse and study music here in the countryside. Also, the thing that really pushed me to make a step in this direction was the fact that I had a beautiful grand piano in the home of Montepulciano, which is still here actually. So feeling, very free, feeling beautifully happy and free in the vineyards, and having a piano at disposal that we could have played daytime, nighttime, really made me think that this one was going to be the right thing to do, and made me think of being in Montepulciano. And then I thought I will do something in the cellar to make my dad happy. I will pretend working in the vineyards. That was what I thought in the beginning. And so it was more and more and more being involved day after day. And I'm still there after more than 30 years. This is my story. And I have to say, I've always felt more and more involved and more happy to be in the world of wine. So it took me time, and I always say I entered the world of wine from the backstage, from a back door, because I went to the vineyard. So I learned by doing, I have to say, but I touched base in every little section of all the daily work. So, and especially in the beginning, there was what we called the fattore at the time, the person in charge for everything, because of course we grew bigger year after year, but we started as a very small winery. So there was one person in charge for almost everything. So that person made my daily schedule, saying, okay, today we have to label, and we were labeling the bottles by hand initially. So that was what I was doing. And then, really very basic little things to do. I had a little office, so I was printing invoices by a very old, machine. So, and this was the beginning. And then year after year, I was, I got more and more enthusiastic about what I did. I was opening more and more windows on the wine world every day. So then I started traveling. I started going around, and I forgot about music for some years. Unfortunately, I forgot about music because I didn't have the time of even thinking about it. But then I happened to get in touch with some Tuscan musicians, and together with them, we decided to record an album that you can actually listen to on our website. It's called Caterina, and I put together all the songs that I like the most. So from some of the Beatles songs, some jazz such as Summertime, classical jazz like Summertime or New York, and other songs, and a little bit of something that I composed because I like improvising. That's the other side of my musical personality. So that's how I was able to put some music into wine. And I have to say, I discovered day by day that music is not so far away from wine, and vice versa. In a place like this, really focusing also on, if I may use the word, conviviality, and having people come, people enjoying wine. I thought that I could definitely put together music and wine. And this is one of my goals, actually one of the goals that I care of the most for the next future. to be able to have events here and having people get in touch with the territory, with the land, with the landscape, with the vines, with the wines, and music. One full experience dealing with many different aspects of culture, wine, and land.
So thinking about making this one experience, the wine with the culture, I have a fun question for you. Given music is so important, I wanted to ask you, if you were to match one song with a wine in your cellar, which wine and which song would you choose?
So I have to say I have songs that I composed that are part of my second album. Of course, I speak of albums, but these albums goes to my friends only. I don't sell music albums because I'm busy enough to sell wine. By the way, but anyway, I recorded these albums, for the fun of it, and to have friends and customers of ours, and people that I know in the wine business that also love music, by the way. So the goal is having them listening to my songs. But one song that I really like to sing, sometimes I do it a cappella in the amphitheater, is definitely summertime. It's definitely summertime. Summer Montepulciano, of course, the summertime is the best time to come to Montepulciano. Oh, together with spring and, of course, the fall. But in winter, I would say dancing in the rain. Dancing in the rain and maybe I'll make the title longer, and enjoying wine.
So which wine would you pair with summertime or with Dancing in the Rain?
I would say enjoy a Vino Nobile. Definitely enjoy a Vino Nobile. You know why? By the way, I have something important to say. That's why. Going back to the Renaissance, when the Vino Nobile started, being important and started being really worldwide known, we have an important person who was in the mid of the 16th century, the bottigliere del Papa, so the sommelier of the Pope at that time, sommelier of Julius II. So this person's name was Sante Lancerio, and we have many important statements written by him. And he said, the Vino Nobile is such a great wine, and the Pope likes the Vino Nobile all over Italian wines. You know why? Because it is a very perfect wine. He used these two words, perfect, very perfect. It is a very perfect wine, and it is perfect to be enjoyed both in the winter and in the summertime. So I think that's perfectly, matching what we were saying about music and wine.
As you know, I completely agree that Vino Nobile is definitely a perfect glass of wine, and certainly, as you say, one to be shared with others through conviviality. Obviously, this has been quite a difficult year for everybody, or particularly wineries. They're facing new challenges. How have you dealt with the situation with 2020, 2021? Have you just been immersing yourself in wine and music?
But 2020, I have to say, I lived a very unexpected period of time because I happened to travel to the United States in the beginning of March last year. So I left Tuscany March the 1st, exactly. And I went to New York for my, the tour that was scheduled. So to meet my importers and to join of course, wine events. And that the pandemic was just starting to spread, unfortunately. And Italy was already kind of, a risky country. So, and I remember I went to New York with some other wine producers. We were supposed to pour the wine at some wine events, and people were about, kind of scared to have Italian producers pouring wine. So that was the beginning. So I finished my tour, ending up in Miami for a press tour of Italian wines. And after that, I was supposed to come back. So by March the 15th, I was supposed to be back in Italy, and I couldn't travel because flights were canceled. So, when did I come back? I came back July the 28th. So I was in Florida for 5 months. And this was totally unexpected. of course, I could handle the situation because somehow I have a home in Florida because my sister has always gone back and forth because her business, the traveling, most of it is in Florida. So that's why she has a small apartment there. So I knew where I could stay. So I was not homeless, but everything was absolutely different from what I usually would have done in a normal, let's say, year. So I was there, and of course during the lockdown, but at the same time I was able to talk with my American distributors, and I have to say, my export, because actually we export 70% of our wines. My export, especially in the United States, was good. I mean, comparing to the international situation, comparing to, of course, the tragedy of the pandemic, commercially speaking, we did a good job. We did a good job. Of course, apart from aside this situation, it is, of course, a very frustrating situation. I mean, speaking worldwide, of course, we have friends, restaurateurs that are really in a very bad crisis. And of course, the fact that 2020 at the end of the day was not so bad for us doesn't mean that we are worried. We are worried for many reasons because, so many people everywhere in the world are losing their jobs, and the situation is not over, unfortunately. So we cannot travel, and we're not so confident that the 2021 would be, a good year for everyone. So of course, basically we can't travel, and it is not sure that people could have the opportunity to come over. We don't know if people from the United States or from other countries could travel. So, of course, we are very worried, and we are concerned about many aspects of our business and, of course, our health all over the world. Unfortunately, it's something that I think, touch every one of us by very close, by very near, because I think like me and like many people that I know, they also know people that have been sick, that have been infected, and everyone is scared, everyone is worried. Relationship changed so much because we're not free to talk to each other without a mask. I think lifestyle changed. I think everybody's lifestyle worldwide changed, I think. Luckily from my side, I have to say, people drank wine at home, which is probably the reason why we didn't lose our market, considering that restaurants have been closed and wine stores have been closed. But people ordered wines and they drank wines at home, and this is really something that helped us a lot, and also keep us enthusiastic and keep us wanting to fight and go on, because otherwise, we could have closed the doors of our business, the doors of our wineries, if it wasn't because of this. But of course, we are very worried. We're very worried for many people that have been sick again, people who have lost their dear ones. So of course, it's not an easy situation. We hope that the vaccine will finally bring us to reestablish health all over, so to go back to a life that we all want to live.
And hopefully, in the meantime, everyone will be continuing to drink Vino Nobile at home until that they are able to travel and be with you and enjoy a fabulous concert in your amphitheatre. Maria, thank you so much for joining me on the Italian Wine Podcast today. Where can our listeners find you and the winery, online or on social media?
We are on social media. We are Cantine Dei is on Facebook, is on Instagram. And of course, we have our website, so cantinedei.com, that you can join to look at the pictures of our winery, to have, to read about us and to listen to your music if you like.
Of course, we have to send all of our listeners to listen to the music. Could you just repeat the Instagram handle for us?
It's Cantine Dei, so it's CANTINE Dei, DEI, Cantine Dei. So it's both. It's the same address, Instagram and Facebook. And Rebecca, we would love to welcome you to the winery as soon as you could come to Italy. You'll be our guest, of course.
I will be there as soon as I can travel. I will be there to witness the amphitheatre myself and to enjoy a glass of Bossona while I do it. Maria, thank you so much. I think our listeners are going to really enjoy this conversation.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.